Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Meeting with the Manager. I'm City Manager Eric Tungate. On this month's show, I want to focus on giving a flood update, and I also want to introduce two of our newest employees, our new Recreation Director Julie Hall and our new Community and Economic Development Manager Kimberly Maroney. And as always, later on in the show, I'll be talking with our Public Safety Director Steve Cooper. First, I want to thank all of our residents and business owners for your patience as we continue to deal with the fallout from the historic flooding in August. Oak Park was a leader in executing an emergency plan to assist our residents as quickly and effectively as possible. The resources of our communication network were fully utilized to give you as much information as we possibly could and as we were receiving it. While the impact of the storm will be felt for some time, we believe we have a good start in getting to a full recovery. That being said, if you still have non-emergency issues related directly to the flood, you can contact City Hall, my office that is, at 248-691-7410. We'll do our very best to connect you with the right resources. Crises like the flood reminded me that there are great people living among us. I heard directly from amazing people all over our community wanting to help wherever they could. They took initiative to get the word out and help their neighbors and family members in most need. It was truly inspiring. It reminded me of the famous Martin Luther King Jr. quote, "Fortunately, history does not pose problems without eventually producing solutions. The disenchanted, the disadvantaged, and the disinherited seem, at times of deep crisis, to summon up some sort of genius that enables them to perceive and capture the appropriate weapons to carve out their destiny." We saw the measure of these efforts in Oak Park and surrounding communities. We have much to be thankful for. Oak Park is a city on the mend. 2 years ago, we took on substantial financial issues, which we eventually overcame. And most recently, we found ourselves on the other side of a monumental flood. Our priorities are set in stone, and our city is principled in shaping policy that best reflects the very best interests of our residents. If I have learned anything from the flood, it is that we can get through anything when we work together. Not even a great flood can keep Oak Park down, and we will rise again. I'd now like to take this opportunity to welcome in our new Recreation Director, Julie Hall. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy that you're here, and I want to start off asking you a few questions. And first, so our viewers know who you are and where you're coming from, could you tell me about yourself and about your background?
Sure. I have been working in the Parks and Recreation field for about 20 years now. Kind of found it by accident doing some summer work, internship work, and decided I really liked working for the community, so I've worked my way up from teaching sports camps up to director. So I've worked in cities of various sizes and have a wide variety of experience with parks and different recreation programming.
And I know you at one point in your career you worked for the city of Ferndale, just right next door, so we're glad to see that, of course, with our agreement. So having said that, why did you choose to come to Oak Park, and what are some of the possibilities that you see for our recreation function?
Well, certainly I was familiar with the area, so it was definitely appealing. And I did communicate with some mentors of mine and asked them about the city government here and just to get some insight. And they highly recommended the city manager and management team, which was very important to me to move things forward. And I thought there was tremendous possibility knowing of facilities because I worked at Ferndale.
Well, thank you very much. And you know, there's so many things going on in the recreation department at any given time, especially this time of year. Mm-hmm. Are there projects and things that you're working on now that you could cue us in on?
Definitely. We're actually in the process of transitioning over our recreation registration software system. So we're moving from one system to a new system, which should help us with our data collection and also making it easier on residents to register for programs. So that's our key item right now. And then we're also in process of getting quotes for the pool renovation that we're planning for this next year. So those are two keys. Also working with the Recreation Advisory Board on doing a master plan update, which would involve getting citizen feedback. So we will
Yeah.
start engaging community on that soon.
And I know, a lot of people don't know this, some do, but most people don't know that we actually did sign an interlocal agreement with the city of Ferndale, I think it was now a year and a half ago, and which expands some of the resources and some of the customer base here to Oak Park. And are there other possibilities for other cities out there?
Certainly. The city of Hazel Park actually has a new recreation director, and we've communicated with Hazel Park about having them join in on our interlocal agreement.
Oh, that's great to hear. Well, I want to thank you for joining us, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I now have the distinct pleasure of introducing our new Community and Economic Development Manager, Kim Maroney. Welcome to the show, Kim.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you here, and there are so many things going on in the world of community and economic development. But first, and we're going to get to those, but first I want to start with, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, so people can know where you're from and what you do.
Okay, well, most recently I came from a small rural community, and while up there I had completed all the goals I set for myself and was looking for a new challenge and stumbled upon the position here in Oak Park. But once I came to the city, I was sold on all its possibilities and was really excited to come and work for this community.
Oh, that's great. And that really, you chose to come here, you saw some possibilities. Could you talk about some of those possibilities? I know we've talked, we had the big debate about tavern licenses prior to your arrival. We've talked about a lot more pedestrian orientation, some of those things. What are some of those possibilities that you see?
Yeah, one of the big things that drew me here was the possibilities at the Armory site. I think there's a lot of potential for development there. Also in creating more of a downtown atmosphere at our 9 and Coolidge corridor and creating that walkable environment and maybe creating some of the momentum that Ferndale's already created along 9 Mile and bringing that here into Oak Park to provide some entertainment options for the citizens in our community. Other than that, we eventually will hopefully get the Class C liquor licenses so we can provide more entertainment and options for diners within our community.
And you see the Class C liquor license issue as a tool for economic development expansion?
Absolutely, and attracting any of your chain restaurants, you will need those Class C liquor license to attract them into our community. So that is why we don't see them here as of yet. But hopefully we can attract maybe a brewery or something in that aspect since we have the tavern license.
Sure. So, as I asked our recreation director, there are so many things going on. Now, your department's a little bit different because it's just you and our city planner, who's a part-time city planner. What are some of the projects that you're working on specifically? And we talked about possibilities of those projects, but are there things in detail you can talk about?
Some of the things we're working on right now is creating a facade improvement program. That would be something that our commercial businesses could tap into to improve the look of their business and hopefully attract new tenants into the vacant spaces. So that's something that we hope to have up and coming in the next few months. We're also looking at creating corridor improvement authority or downtown development authority, something that we can get some tax increment financing to fund some projects that would allow us to do some of the placemaking efforts and those types of activities.
And so you talked about a facade improvement program. I want to go back to that. A lot of people don't know what that means, so could you explain what that means?
Yeah, you see a lot of the older buildings within our community that haven't been updated or maintained in a long time, and they're just kind of run down looking, and they have a hard time attracting tenants to them, so they sit vacant. So we want to spur that new investment into the building by providing them with some additional funding in the matching grant form. So we need to do some fundraising to fund that pot of money for the businesses, but hopefully once we get that going, it will definitely start to get some new improvements at the look and the facades of all the buildings.
Sure. And then something else I wanted to go back to, because you mentioned a tax increment financing district possibility, and so could you explain just a little bit? It's a really complex issue, but could you explain a little bit more in detail what that entails?
Yeah, your downtown development authorities are probably the most popular TIF type district. And what you do is you set up an area with boundaries, and an actual taxable value will be placed on it in today's value. As values increase in that district, that amount can be captured towards any development activities that you want to do in that particular district. So it's only on new captured values from the date it was established.
And does that include, maybe infrastructure improvements like islands in the street?
Yes, it would include any type of infrastructure improvements, water mains, streets.
Oh, wow. And now, could some of that money be used towards the facade improvement program even?
Absolutely. We would hope that that would help to fund that program as well as business workshops for our business owners.
Sure. Well, I want to thank you for joining me. That's a little bit, and there's a lot going on, I know, but thank you again, and we look forward to working with you.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. As always, I'd like to welcome in our Director of Public Safety, Steve Cooper. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to start with just a few things, but I'd like to start first with our back-to-school reminders and tips for parents.
Yes, one of the main safety reminders that we'd like to let the parents be aware of is that when they're dropping their kids off for school, make sure that they're pulling in a safe area so the kids can actually exit the vehicle and cross the roadway and actually get into the school in a safe and responsible manner. We would hate to have, unfortunately, an accident occurring, first couple of days of school, so we ask them to definitely keep those safety tips in mind as well. One of the other major things that we ask is that if some parents are allowing their kids to actually walk to school, we want them to use the buddy system. Make sure they don't take shortcuts by cutting down alleys. Make sure that they're walking in areas that are extremely visible and not cutting through fields or things as such.
Absolutely. And the other thing, unrelated of course, but the other thing that we've heard a lot about, and of course you and I have been involved tremendously in this, but we've heard about the marijuana issue. So there's a big debate about what this actually means for our community, but from you, what is your perspective on the new marijuana charter change that we had go through in our primary ballot?
The charter amendment that we had go through is not going to affect the way we police the statute whatsoever. Public safety, we're still governed by state and federal laws, and we're sworn to uphold the federal and state constitution. So therefore, if residents are thinking or under the impression that something has changed, the way our enforcement actions are actually going to occur, then no. Just to give them, I guess, a little bit of background behind that, the ballot initiative was to legalize an ounce or less of marijuana on personal property for basically personal use. And if, like I said, public safety has the opportunity to engage a resident or some of our citizens who use our community, and they happen to be in violation of that statute, then we'll enforce the state statute as we always have.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've said this many times as well, but it does not change the way that we enforce state and federal laws. So those laws are on the books, and until such time that those laws change in the legislature or in Congress, here we are. So now, having said all of that, of course, we know that it has amended our charter, albeit not enforceable. So it's created a real interesting situation that you don't see very often, of course.
Right. Now, we have fielded some phone calls at the Public Safety Department regarding the matter, and we have been instructing, residents or our callers, just as we discussed here, that it does not change anything as it relates to how we enforce the law in our state statute. So if some of our residents are a little unsure, then I would encourage them to contact the Public Safety Department, and we can definitely give them some clarification and some guidance as it relates to the statute.
Sure. I want to shift gears just a little bit here in our closing moments and talk, are there trends or happenings out there in the community that you think our residents should know about?
As it relates to crime activities, I'm assuming that's what we're talking about. Yes, one of the big ones is, and we've said it a million times, we've experienced an increase in larceny, what we call larceny from vehicles, where you'd have perpetrators actually going throughout the neighborhoods, and they'll actually try car door handles to see if a car is unlocked, and then they'll go in and they'll rummage through glove boxes, they'll go in under seats to see if they can grab a computer, cash, loose change, or whatever valuables that they can find. And just some of the real very basic safety tips that we try and impart upon our residents is to just simply lock your vehicles, and that would eliminate, I would think, a significant amount of those larceny from autos. The criminals, they don't want to cause a scene, they don't want to attract attention, so it's a lot easier for them. Maybe if your car door is locked, they'll move on down the street to the next area until they're actually out of the city of Oak Park. Not that we're trying to push our issues into other communities, but we want our residents to to just remember at least that basic safety tip. And if they could do that, I think that would help us out greatly.
Yeah, just a general better awareness of their surroundings and what's going on around you, of course.
Absolutely. One of the things that I've been preaching for years is that we call it, and I didn't coin the phrase, but if you see something, say something. A lot of times the residents, they become a little apprehensive when they look out and they see something that they believe is a little out of sorts, but they wait several minutes or even the next day and they'll talk to their neighbors about an incident, as opposed to just picking up the phone and calling public safety and letting us actually come out and investigate to see what's actually going on. So, we're more than happy to do that. That's what we're here for. If we come out and investigate an incident and it turns out to be nothing, then great. But if it does turn out to be something, then we want to be able to intervene and take the appropriate actions.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, and as always, I want to thank you for your commitment and your hard work to this city. So it's much appreciated.
Thank you, sir.
I want to thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again next month.